You're listening to the Faith and Friction Podcast with your hosts, Mac and the Rev. Welcome to the conversation.
All right, once again, faith and friction. We put those two things together, Rev, and we're just diving right into the middle of both of them. And it is exciting stuff. I just love it. What about you?
You're the master. I really love following your example, and you've made my life a better place with both my faith and my friction as a result of sharing this time.
I would have to say the same thing, too, because the big thing to remember in all this, too, it was cosmic. I didn't come up with that. AI came up with our logo, which is amazing. I love it. Okay.
I do, too.
And also gave that combination, as I was putting in stuff, is one of the alternatives. And I looked at that and I went, oh,
we're not the
of
only
course.
podcast by that name.
True.
But it's definitely unique. As I looked at the other ones that have that name, I think that there is more friction here.
A lot of theirs, what I've looked at as well, it's interchurch. It's we have a faith, and how does it create friction within our church or our body?
Which is a good thing.
Oh, sure. I think it's great to flesh that kind of stuff out and just call it for what it is without.
But I like the perspective we put behind these microphones of a greater picture.
Yes.
It's just friction as the human race, friction as earthlings sharing a journey, trying to make our way home and remember we belong to each other.
How about these two things for this episode? Faith and culture. There's a rub, depending upon where you're coming from.
Are they separate, or can they even ever be separate?
Oh, can they coexist? Can faith be driven by culture? There's question one. And can culture be driven or impacted? I shouldn't necessarily say driven, but
well, I think driven works too. Driven or impacted, the answer is an emphatic yes.
For sure. Both and both. It goes both ways. And I think we can adopt and nod in the right direction to say, or at least imply, that faith impacts culture. I mean, we're okay with that view. Well, of course it should impact culture. That's what faith is all about.
But the danger, putting a different word in there, can faith overcome culture? And can culture overcome faith? Absolutely. Danger. Well, it's balance.
Yeah.
My Taoist heart is going to say there must be a balance of both. Two sisters dancing together. Both and.
So, and again, we want to try to categorize our faith needs to stay away from culture because it can be negatively influenced by the culture. And then there's the little t truth that you adopt, that I adopt, that he adopts, and we all kind of do our own thing, and it's chaos. That's I mean, you go down this path, right? Oh, that's just going to create debauchery, and people are going to sin all they want. And you draw these parallels that you step back from that and you go, does it have to be that way?
Mm-hmm. And I like to examine what is the main intention behind faith. Let's get to the root.
That's a great question.
What is the main intention behind culture? Community.
Yes.
Belonging, togetherness. And from my perspective, it's unity.
Yes, it would be. Wouldn't it?
Of course it would be. But I believe there is a commonality in the purpose and the intent of both.
Absolutely.
And we never get there. If it's one or the other, separate them, dualistic, and they're not dancing together, we have a problem.
Yeah, there's the dualism again. Correct. And it also creates a self-righteousness. It creates us and them, all these different ripple effects. It's all based in duality, right? We just don't even recognize it a lot of time. That's dualistic, right? It's righteous. That will put the whole thing on top. But faith, belief, things like this are always influenced by culture. Always. Just even Christianity. I mean, we don't have to go back to the Egyptians. I'm talking about look at how culture has influenced the Christian faith since 1833 or whatever. I mean, you can't say that it hasn't. It's ridiculous to think that it doesn't evolve. It doesn't. We tend to want to be afraid of how our culture will dictate our truth.
I've done some traveling in Europe. And if you look, it's pretty historically there. The church was the center. Faith was the center of the entire community. The city, it was the tallest building in town. And I've kind of grieved a little bit because that's not happening anymore. The church is on the off to the side. It's not the center of culture. And I have thought that's a bad thing, but maybe it's the universe bringing it into balance, that the church or the faith does not have so much power that the culture is completely dominated.
It speaks to a reformation, that there's some change in these, but I experienced the exact same thing. I went over to Europe, and the big church right there in the middle of the square, the whole thing. And I remember just walking, we were very close where we were staying, and I just walked over there and walked through the doors, right? Now, this was during the week, and I get that, but I was talking to the guy that we were there with, and
nobody's here anymore. And in Europe, these big, massive churches are just tourist places now.
So there's a shift that is going to take place no matter what.
Yeah.
It will evolve. I almost hate to say it devolves, because I think it's all an evolution, that we need to higher awareness. Like you said, why aren't there more people in the churches? I think that's an evolving perspective that will, for whatever reason, that doesn't fit anymore. It doesn't work for me. Mm-hmm. Now you've got people in a certain place and a certain perspective that maybe they'd be open now to something greater than what they've ever experienced.
And is it a circular thing, a cyclical thing, that religion will come back? Because right now, if I look at culture in the United States, politics is running the religion. The major religion of the country is being run by politics. Mm-hmm. Culture is overwhelming it. And that there is going to be this great renaissance where we return to the divine ideas of the spirituality of Jesus. That is the number one religion in our country. But all the religions have common divine ideas. And I think what's happening is there is a movement back towards center a little bit. Is Reformation, is Renaissance an ongoing experience?
I like the word Renaissance better than I like the word Reformation. Okay, I do. I think that's better. And I think for me, this evolution, this changing, this coming back, this whatever, I think we come back with a greater sense of our divinity and a higher consciousness toward the divine. I really hope for that again, that's the root. That if we get that better, if we understand it
and use the word we there, I think that's what's emerging. It's not the greater awareness of my divinity. It's our divinity. And so no matter who you are, what you've done, or what you believe, I'm recognizing your divinity. And I do believe that's a Christ, a Buddha nature, an Atman, a Tao. I don't care what you call it.
It's universal.
It's that spiritual truth that is in all of us.
Yes.
That's the great awakening. And it's an internal journey, not an external one.
We can't be fearful about that renaissance. What we will do is if we get fearful, we'll shut it down. I mean, we will just flat out, boom, nope, not going
Fear
there.
Stops evolution.
Talk to the hand, ain't happening. Except for, this is what I get excited about. Look throughout history. I don't care whether it's religion or culture or politics or you fill in the blank. There's always a remnant that keeps the truth and the goodness alive, that will not succumb to the norm. And those are the people that ultimately shift things. It shifts.
Michelangelo, I did a little study, I did a play about him, and I played him at one point. He was a rebel. He was a maverick who played within the system, but poked holes in the system and created a renaissance, a different view. Now, what he did, what Martin Luther did, let's just put it out there and be bold. There is the courage that exists, the same courage that challenged the religious authority at one point, that didn't make the church the center of culture, is now going to challenge
even the universe.
Is now going to challenge the culture of the political environment. It's the same courage. It's the same mentality and spirit and intention for a more balanced society. I think that's happening.
Yeah.
It's the emperor's new clothes, if you will, both religiously, politically, socially. We're going to just call out what we see.
Yes.
And that takes guts.
It does. Yes, it does. Especially if you have to be a Lone Ranger. And it usually starts with that. Remember we were watching that video? That's a classic video, right? Of the guy dancing on the side of the hill. And he's all alone. And then all of a sudden, flash mob.
Somebody has to be the first one that says, I'll stand there alone and take the hits.
Yes.
But then if I can do that, One person becomes two voices become four.
We'll make it. Look at the civil rights movement. I mean, there's all kinds of examples. You can get women's suffrage. I mean, just all kinds of different examples throughout history that speak to that courage, that boldness, that willingness.
Yes. And it's not just in religious organizations or churches. It's happening in every square inch of our humanity. We're going to talk a little bit about social justice. We're going to talk about technology. We're going to talk about spirituality, relativism. I mean, it's everywhere. This renaissance is happening everywhere.
Yes.
And we're either cooperating with it or out of fear fighting it.
That gets me to, I mean, that floats my boat, brother. I get so excited about raising my hand and saying, look, I know that I may go off the deep end sometimes. I may get way out ahead of myself.
Bolder than most. I will give you that credit.
Let's just press in, man. Let's go Mach 6 with our hair on fire. Okay. Just let's make it happen. And I'll worry about the yellow flag or the, later.
If I'm going to change your name, you call yourself Mac, I'm going to call you Michelangelo. You are creating a renaissance.
Oh, man. That's pretty good. I got to give you credit for that one, man. That's pretty good. So where does faith, where can faith, not does, but where can faith intersect with culture? Just some examples that we would throw out there. And I think this goes across not just Christianity. I'm talking faith.
Yep.
Period. Faith, in my view, and the Bible's all about this. I know other faiths are about this. It's about oneness and the people and a life that we all live that is honored, and that we take culture and we go, hey, wait a minute here. Okay, look at who's being disenfranchised. Look who we're abusing. This isn't right.
This sounds like unity is what you're talking about. And I look about the indigenous people that didn't even know what Christianity was, but culture and faith coexisted as partners, and they honored that in their celebration of connection to each other and to the earth. Now, was there still tribalism? Absolutely. History would tell you there was still the human ego involved, but there was a greater cooperation with the planet that had nothing to do with God and everything to do with life.
Yeah, almost like Mother Earth kind of thing. Yeah. And of course, those kinds of things typically will bump up against culture.
Sure.
And the culture says, you look weak to me. If love is the way you want to live life, passivity, nonviolence, all of these kinds of things, culture, and look at the indigenous people here.
Well, let's just look at Thanksgiving and the roots of Thanksgiving. History would say the loving people were overcome by those who brought God in. That was more powerful.
Yeah.
Religion overcame culture as opposed to integrating it.
God came with guns, all right? And then boom, there you go. So faith and social justice, the idea that to me, you can't separate them. You can't say my faith, my belief in God does not include social justice. And again, define that term, but I just defined it in the largest sense that says we're all in this together.
Yeah.
We have oneness.
I've not found any religion that does not have at its center somewhere some humility that says it's not all about you. It is all about us.
Yes.
And that you are my brother, you are my sister, forgiveness, compassion. All these things are central. The golden rule is pretty much pervasive in one form or another, which is trying to restore oneness, cooperation, co-creation. Coexisting.
I love that. And our problem tends to be sometimes, and sometimes much more than others, and that's the idea. We go back to the me versus the we.
Yeah.
You look at the Bible, there's all kinds of Old Testament stories. How about the rich young ruler that Jesus was talking to in the New Testament? So it becomes about, this is mine, and therefore I'm not about to look to the greater good, to the social justice that says, I want to be part of that. And yes, I've been prosperous, and yes, I've been blessed. So you know what? I'm willing
this
to
is the
share.
intersection you're talking about. It's the moral compass that spirituality can give us. Religion, out of control, won't give us that. It's still going to have the moral compass, but it causes us to act in ways that create community.
Yes.
more than isolation. And I think religion out of control creates isolation. Us and them, goats and sheep, good, bad.
My God,
my religion, my belief system. And I think that's religion affecting in a harmful way culture.
Yes.
So, but a religion that is about empowering the culture of the collective, of all of us, that's the sister dancing. That's the good place. And I think the imperative, not necessary use of spirituality, which the indigenous people had.
Yes, they did. I mean, yes, it's found all across the globe in time memorial, right? We just have to realize a lot of times we have to put our view of God, whatever we learned, when it's separating, when it's me, mine, and somehow or other we justify that.
Yeah.
And we've got to break down those paradigms, those biases, to say, I'm not going to be fearful of somebody along the way, quote, abusing the system. We hear that all the time, right? Think about the Jewish people where they left the gleanings on the sides of when they harvested for the poor. They consciously left a band around their field so that the less fortunate could eat.
And I think it's tangential, but it's important. I was in a church in Sacramento, California, and after 9/11, the Islamic people were very isolated.
Oh, I bet.
They were ostracized in that community. Our community, as an interfaith community, were the first ones and the only ones to come over, and our kids put a globe and put a Band-Aid on the Middle East and put it on New York and went over there and said, we belong to each other. We have not forgotten. 5 years later, that church had lost their building that they were renting, and they had an Easter service with no place to go. Where do you think they went? The mosque.
The mosque
Said, come on in, brothers and sisters, and community was created. They celebrated Easter with the Christians, and then we celebrated Ramadan with them when they came and spoke in our church. Something was created.
Oneness.
Oneness that overcame the divisiveness.
Yes.
That you're supposed to have an enemy. You're supposed to, they think differently. I believe we have to overcome the box of a culture that says we're right, you're wrong.
That just all along the way. And what we're dealing with in today's culture, more than maybe any other time in history, I can say this, that our faith a lot of it is influenced, and it's even a lot of times based upon technology. It's based upon what we see out there on the internet and all the apps and all that stuff. We're framed by all of that.
Yet the Christianity that I study and have studied, and the Islam that they had studied, there's a divine idea of cooperation. Again, co-creation, of working together as one humanity. That was demonstrated. Why can't we do that? And are we on the precipice? Do we have to break down? But the moral compass we both learned in both the mosque and in the church was the golden rule. That was the moral compass, the social justice. You do what's right for the less.
You do.
You reach out. It's kind, what's loving, what's generous. Give it to those people. Don't withhold.
Without an expectation. I've heard people say, I wouldn't mind giving, but I want to be absolutely sure that it's going where I want it to go. And you're like, wait a minute. Then it's got hooks. Then it's got conditions. And that gives people a great excuse to go, so therefore.
I teach the movement of energy, and we were in this class talking about energy. Somebody asks me for money. If I've got a 5, a 20 in my wallet, I'm going to give it to them. And my friends will say, you don't know where that money's going. You don't know.
No.
I said, I don't care where it is. It's up to them. That's their karma. It is the exchange of energy that I love you so much as my brother and my sister that I want to help you, give you a hand up. Now, I understand politically, nobody's telling me I have to do that. I get that. But I am doing that naturally because my religion supports the culture of cooperation.
We need to develop, all of us, a greater discernment in the world, period. And that doesn't mean learn whether that person's going to abuse that $10 that you gave them or not. That's not discernment.
No.
That doesn't, I'm just
That's
talking
control.
Yeah, exactly. You got to use this the way I tell you have to use it. We talk about this. I think we talked about this in the old podcast. that I was taught one time about when you go up at the corner or somebody, you're going to give them $5 or you're going to give them $10, all right? As you're handing it to them, say, what's your name?
Yep.
And that's part of the honoring one another.
That's a part of rising above. Who cares if it's a 5, a 10, or a penny, or a 20? I'm creating a connection with you as a fellow human being walking this journey.
Yes. I'm giving you and I'm recognizing your identity.
Yeah.
And this is social justice. This all goes under the same heading, in my opinion. And so technology, we also have to learn to be more discerning about it. We can't let our faith, as we define it, but I think there's a semi-common idea. You talked about this. What is faith? It can certainly be impacted by all the information that we constantly get. And so how do we sift through all that and try to glean out,
what is true? What isn't real?
That's right. We talked about this before.
I don't get what is true. We're being inundated constantly, manipulated constantly. We have to get quiet and still, check out of the world and go, what is true?
Yes. And let's not get mired in the subjective versus objective. The minute you start going there, now all of a sudden you're finding excuses. Why not? It just it doesn't help your discernment. No. It really doesn't. Because where does discernment come from? Okay. It comes from the spirit, the divinity within us.
It can also come from programming.
Yeah, that too.
We got to dig a little bit deeper beneath the surface for the purest water.
And their programming. I kind of like that word too. And then you have sort of this whole idea of secularism, and there's all kinds of data and this and that these people don't have a faith. These people don't have a belief necessarily, but it's all grounded in, I'm going to use an example in my life, name it, claim it. Okay. That's very secular. That's, I want this stuff. So therefore I'm going to do these certain religious things with the intention of getting the stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. So it moves into a more secular realm, and we tend to lose the deeper. That to me is not part of the root or the fruit. That's out here in the weeds when we're focused on that. And it's easy to do. I mean, it's easy to do.
If its foundation is perhaps a greed or a me, get my own. I want, I go after, I get.
Yep.
I'm good. As opposed to we need, good. We desire, we get.
And our desire comes from love. It comes from the right place if we cultivate it enough.
Have we lost because we have not cultivated love? That fear has been driving for so long that we don't even know what real love is. We don't have a relationship with that real love.
Yes.
So we call secular as bad or wrong. I know some of the most loving people do not have God at the center of their life, but it's God with a different iteration, a different name. It's the earth. It's humanity. But there's something central that's guiding, that's deeper than I got mine.
Yeah. Yes. And again, it's this friction. It's this friction in there between what I believe and how I look at God, how we look at God, and the culture, the secularism that either discounts that entirely, for the most part, and just goes on about its business, or as culture's always experienced a certain amount of this where it gets framed. Yeah. Those beliefs get framed by secularism, the secular. And again, we gotta be smarter than that. I don't know. I don't know how else to put it.
Let me ask you a question, because I'm not sure I 100% agree. Do we have to have God or religion or faith? Well, we all have faith in something in order to have that connection, to have that oneness. Is it a necessary component? Is the church at the center a necessary component to the culture being connected? Or is it just God by another name?
I think it's a means. I think it's one means.
Yes, definitely.
Out there that is an avenue for those that want to embrace it. But I don't think it's exclusive by any means. Yeah,
I've seen people who were willing to suspend the differences of their religious belief system create a deep friendship, a deep relationship, a deep cooperation without God ever being mentioned. I think it is possible. I think, again, I'm going to be Taoist and say it's got to be a balance of both.
I'm going to answer that by saying yes. We just may not call it that. We may not acknowledge it at that, but it's there. I don't think you can discount it if someone is leaning into the universal goodness.
Yep.
However they do it.
That's a different set of words for the same idea.
Yes.
Or the same entity.
Yes. The results, though, are evident. The fruit there on their tree can be very common, no matter how you're going to come about it, right? And you don't discount it because it's a different color.
How many opportunities have we missed to create that sense of common good because you're not using the words I use? You're not using the book I use. You're not using the avenue I use. We've missed something.
Oh, I think we've missed a sensitivity for humanity. That is what we've missed. And I've had to use this common good phraseology, and I get pushback on that, especially in the Western culture. And we have this idea, again, in my mind, all right, there's nothing common about it, whether in America right now we're talking common health care, universal health care, or education, or the kids, the daycare, or whatever. Pick things in that's common to everybody, that honors and takes care of, provides for.
For the whole.
Yes.
For the culture, for the environment.
For the society. Absolutely. So we end up I believe we can end up believing that spirituality can certainly transform culture.
Yep.
I am a firm believer in that. I think that the minute you start chasing all sorts of other solutions to the problem of disconnecting and me versus we and all of that out there, you try to stamp it out or you try to grow it up, it's not sustainable. I mean, whatever we're going to do, it's going to fizzle out at some point because I don't think it has a foundation of spirituality.
Does
that
the
we can build
spirituality, is it a good avenue for keeping the ego in check?
That too, isn't it?
I think so. I think that greed and that mind, it keeps the ego in check. When religion can point us in that direction. I also think it can be a wonderful avenue for the ego. Historically, the ego gets a control of the religion and it gets twisted.
Yeah. I speak for God.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So the Bible will talk about it. Jesus talked about it, being salt and light, right? We talk about this all the time, that our energy, walking into a room, relationally, what kind of energy are you putting out? Yep. What kind of thoughts are you thinking? Which again, puts out whatever that energy field is.
It is. And I love the term, the salt of the earth. What is that? Go back, and what was salt used for? For healing. I am the cause for healing and for flavor. It was also used to make things have a little bit more flavor. Life can be more joyous. Life can be more full and diverse. And we have to use the salt for the healing as well. So what am I putting into the universe with my thoughts, my feelings, my actions, my beliefs? They are either healing the planet or they're not. They're healing the divide or they're not. This is I think you are the salt of the earth is an affirmation, but it's also a challenge. Be the healer.
Yeah. I think that's what Jesus, it was a challenge.
Yeah, exactly.
Jesus' part, he was like, here's another, not rule. Jesus didn't operate with rules like the 10 Commandments. All of his stuff, in my opinion, were mandates. Look, if you really want to press into this stuff, love one another.
Yeah.
Now, he didn't give the 10 rules about how to love one another. Okay. He just said love's better. Yep. Okay, practice it. Sink into
love
it.
God, love your neighbor as yourself.
Hello.
Period. There's the golden rule that we talked about throughout. But boy, have we covered that up with a bunch of stuff.
I think there's the common word right there, right? Stuff.
Stuff happens.
We just got stuff, man. And light, salt and light, Jesus said. So what we're shining, the aura, the energy, even the resting face. We've talked about this before, right? What about your resting face? Are you showing light in how your countenance?
People call me out. I'm sitting on a platform and I see it on a camera. It was like, then they flash at me sitting there and it's, man, I got to fix the resting face because it's not a good vibration. It's usually around a song that's not going so well. And it's like
circumstantial.
Yeah, love through the difficult flat notes.
We're all subject to that.
Sure.
Right? But again, being conscious, just being conscious of these little subtleties.
Yep.
What causes us, again, I don't look at it this way. I can't go out into the world living my life every single day going, what's my resting face look like? What's my resting face look like? Oh, here, smile. Oh, get my eyes bright. It just becomes who you are.
Exactly. It's integrated. It's a practice until it's a hobby, it's a practice, then it becomes just who you are.
Yes. And how does it get there? How do you get there? What does that look like?
You're asking musicians,
I'm asking.
How do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice.
All righty. There it
again,
is.
It's a previous episode is you fall down and you get back up. You ask for forgiveness, you offer forgiveness, and you do it better the next day.
And you're working at it. It takes work.
Yep.
But this isn't an osmosis kind of thing where you just sort of live out there and it just permeates into you. No, some energy does, and I'm not.
I believe Jesus himself, all the great masters, cultivated
absolutely
the eventual spirit that they had.
Yes.
It didn't happen overnight.
No, look at the Buddha. Look at Jesus. Look at Gandhi. Look at Mother Teresa. I mean, I'm just using some examples.
Well, think of the whole proverbial in the wilderness, Jesus talking to the devil and get thee behind me. It's wrestling. He wrestled with his humanity.
Yeah, Jacob. Yeah, same thing. Right?
And it's, I'm going to consciously bring the highest part of me forward whenever I get a chance. I'm going to remember by revisiting that place often, not once in a while, not on Sundays. Some of the best Christians I know on Sundays are the worst Christians Monday through Saturday.
I think we could all probably say that.
I've been one of them, so I know. I recognize it.
Me too. All right. So I look at it sort of, if I have to visualize that, it's my highest good. When I meditate, I tend to try to raise my consciousness to the highest good. But there's other things too that I come into some of my chakras and my heart and things like that. But my visualization goes high. You know what I'm saying? It's just, that's the way I can connect. I don't know, more naturally, shall I put it? But it's certainly not the only way.
That process itself is an ongoing, it's a commitment to a daily practice.
Yes.
I have seen it in my life where somebody I had defined as my enemy, okay, we'll raise the vibration a little bit, they're my teacher. But then from the teacher, they become my friend.
Yes.
And I've seen transformation happen on both sides of that relationship.
Yeah, that's got to work both ways.
It has to work both ways. People will eventually raise the vibration to the level of your ability to love.
I
believe that. And now there are those that are harder to do that than others. Some people, it's easier to love from a distance, but I have seen the same transformation.
Absolutely. So the friction, man. Faith and culture often collide. And what happens when things collide? Friction, right? Yep. And sometimes I used to look at it this way: God, the universe, the all, Jesus, whatever. I've used this many times and say, a lot of times that divine comes in and absolutely wrecks your life. I mean, you have a collision where you just are, you don't know what the hell happened even, but sometimes it takes that. And again, and we live a life such that I think that we can cultivate that. We can wreck me. Okay.
Yes. It's breakdown for breakthrough
or
break open.
Great way to look at it.
I have broken down in those moments where I'm on my knees. I've had to look for the higher part of myself. It wasn't that I intentionally went into a meditation or prayer. I was broken down and I had nothing of the human me left, the human mind left. That's when I found, oh, wait a minute, the part of me I'd forgotten.
Yeah. Yeah. Spiritual seekers, which all of us should be, in my opinion, whichever you want to, if you want to evolve, let me put it that way. Everybody has to be a spiritual seeker. Okay. That's for sure. But I think if you aren't leaning in and seeking a greater truth, a greater understanding, a simpler understanding, a more grounded understanding. I mean, you're seeking these things, whether you look at it that way or not. We need to thoughtfully navigate this relationship between culture and faith. And I think those kinds of perspectives help. in it.
I tend to be a little softer.
Yeah.
Should, have to, you
Yeah.
need to do it. I just think here's a way that's worked really well for me and the people in my environment. It's a very efficient way to do it,
Yeah,
and a very
sure.
loving way to do it. There are people in my life that tell me should, and I just hit should all over me.
Yeah,
And I'm
I
like, nope, wait a minute. But I think
I get a
your
little more.
point is well taken.
Yeah.
You've demonstrated,
Yeah.
you've experienced. This isn't just a pretty theory.
Yeah.
It's lived experience.
Been there, done that. Okay. So faith, you asked this, does it require having faith in order to navigate life, to navigate everything? And I think you made a comment early on in this. You said everybody believes in something.
Yep.
There is a faith that we all have to whatever degree, and we hope that it's directed in the right way, as we've talked about. Social justice, love, compassion, generosity, all those things are products of that. And that, to me, is the way that culture gets transformed.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything's created twice, first
Yeah.
in mind and then in the experience. So the faith is guiding the culture. The culture will shift as I realign within, get to the higher vibration through my faith that it can be better. I just have to have faith that life wasn't intended to be this difficult for all of us. So my faith is, okay, facing the direction it can be better. It will be better. There's a higher power working. Then the culture begins to shift.
Yes. Love shifting culture, Rev.
Yep.
It's all good, man.
I want to be part of that world.
Yeah. Count me in, right? All right. So we're in. Both of us. I know this about you. You know that about me.
Yeah, the song I sing, give yourself to love. If love is what you're after, you've got to give yourself over to that which you want.
All right. Loving. Thanks a bunch. Great episode, man. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening. We will see you on the next episode.
Take away the salt of the earth.